This is another video by Uphill Fitness Productions with some input from the dog. And I thought I would talk briefly about strength training tonight because one of the problems I see with most, shut up, Chloe, videos on strength training and weightlifting, frankly, I'm getting very tired of it. I'm getting tired of all the fitness out there because fitness is, for the most part, a waste of time for the vast majority of you. Because if you're into fitness and studying about fitness, that means you failed at fitness heretofore in your life. And so you weren't good at fitness in grade school sports or high school sports or after high school in college sports or in any kind of professional sports. So you completely failed at every type of athletic pursuit. And now at this juncture, you are seeking to have some sort of bodybuilding or bodily improvement in some way, never in specifically related to the way Mishima talked about when he talked about building his muscles so he could flex them to classical music. Muscles in his chest, he wanted them to ripple like, I guess, piano keys to classical music. And people don't ever think about that. No, they just want a six-pack. The worst part of fitness today is that it's motivated by the idea of making oneself attractive to the opposite sex. And that's probably the worst portion of the whole fitness endeavor, because you want to make yourself a standard body composition that women find most appealing. Now, the problem with this is that the body compositions which women find appealing change periodically. So that body composition that they liked 15 years ago or 20 years ago or 5 years ago or 2 years ago or 1 year ago changes. It just changes periodically, everything. But if you've noticed anything, it's coming to a situation where if you compare Tom Selleck to Gary Cooper to whoever is you could compare them to in the 2020, the male physique that women are purportedly finding attractive is considerably gayer than it ever has been before. So the ripped look is entirely ridiculous. Now, on the other hand, the dad bod is also quite gay, and people don't realize. People think, oh, well, I want to be the opposite of that gay look. The whole, and we're not going to get too much, shut up, into aesthetics today. But I thought I would briefly discuss aesthetics in terms of this whole video on strength training and weightlifting and why it's a waste of time. But you get into the idea of aesthetics, and you eschew the idea of being a ripped individual because, shut up. You don't want to look like one of the guys in Magic Mike or something. And you don't want to have that physique that a gay man would find attractive, like Colty Bras or Brute de Force. And so you go for the dad bod, but strong look. And fundamentally, that's pretty gay, too, because most gay men don't have abs. And most gay men are a little bit overweight. And there are so many subgenres of gay body types that you're bound to fall into one of them. So if you're straight or you think you're straight and you want to go into one of these types of situations, you have to realize that the heterosexual version or the opposite of the ripped guy with abs and so forth and so on, and 8-pack, 10-pack, whatever, it's going to go to a 10-pack eventually, is not, it is gay, but the opposite of that, the diametric, what's completely different from that is not the dad bod. It's not carrying some weight. It's not having a gut. That's not the opposite of it. Because that is also, the dad bod is fundamentally gay too. So, without getting too much into the gay subcultures of all that, it's quite gay. So, you understand that if you're looking for aesthetics, you should just emulate Mishima now and not worry about trying to build a similar physique because you're going to fail. So don't worry about it. Just get your samurai sword and do what you have to do with the aesthetics as far as that goes. But what I wanted to talk about more was strength training, and not strength training to look good, or strength training. Most people want to train to be strong, and that is fundamentally a misunderstanding of the overall situation. And what I mean by that is people train with weights, and I'm not against weight training. I've showed some exercises that involve no weights, but those are simply supplementary exercises for weight training. They're not in themselves enough to function, though if you are incarcerated or in a position where you don't have weights, or you think you're locked in, lockdown, then you might be in a position where the Hindu push-up and squat prove invaluable to you if you can't obtain weights. But the main thing about weights is, again, going back to your fitness goals, people want to be super strong primarily because they're insecure. So it's not a whole lot of a different reason than the little man who becomes a bodybuilder because he can't get himself any taller. He decides to make himself wider and possibly add inches to his physique, his overall appearance, make himself a bigger man that way. But the problem with this is that, again, you have any number of bad reasons for doing what you're doing, be they attracting women, bolstering your self-esteem, or desire to foster some sense of self-reliance, which is a futile effort fundamentally, or to simply be healthy, which is also a foolish goal. What's the point of being healthy in today's society? You can't afford to be healthy. And we can, very easily factor that, Are you going to eat grass-fed beef steak 3 times a day? No, you can't afford it. And for that reason, alone, you're going to fail at being healthy. You can't afford to eat 3 healthy meals a day with all the trimmings or everything, or 3 basic healthy meals a day. It costs too much. It's cost prohibitive in that those individuals who are entitled to that are getting it, and you are not entitled to that. Remember, you have no attributes from birth, and you have no background that would enable you to improve yourself. And therefore, you are in a bad position overall. And strength training is not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. A better physique is not going to help you. There are approximately 900 million Americans also seeking a better physique and competing with one another for it, unsuccessfully. So, let's talk about strength training with weights. Strength training with weights is a problem because people train with weights for no good reason or no goal in mind. People train with weights to lift more weights, and that is not a good goal. Now, we don't know what George Washington did for strength training. But we do know that he could bend a horseshoe. This is a feat of strength that required enormous muscular strength and tendon strength. In the old days, they talked about sinew and brawn more than muscle. And Washington was capable of this feat. There were many other feats of strength being performed in the old days. So people didn't simply lift weights to see who could lift the most weight on a barbell. It was the idea in France of certain groups of picking up heavy stones, picking up this enormous boulder, and certain Indian tribes have this kind of initiation for men too, that they must lift this boulder, and it's not on a barbell. So the point is that lifting weights enables you to lift weight. It doesn't enable you to translate that into other functions of strength. Now, one of the biggest and most muscled individuals I know, solidly built. I don't know if he lifts weights. He works in a tire shop, and he has the best arms I have seen in a while. Not necessarily the biggest, but certainly overall, I think most people would agree that they are the best. And he works in a tire shop, and they break down tires all day. And I don't believe he's also a volunteer fireman. So I don't know what his background is in weight training or if he has any. A lot of laboring men develop physiques not necessarily because of their labor, but because of their blue collar heritage. So they have a background, they have blue collar genetics, which are powerful for a powerful build, as they said in the old days, for stout hands, large hands, and just a natural frame that packs on muscle. And a lot of these guys, all of these guys have bad backs, because they don't train their lower back and don't know about it. So, again, the end of strength training, the idea of lifting weight to lift more weight is not going to translate into feats of strength. You will very rarely see a power lifter. Now, it's been done, and it can be done. I'll put that addendum in before I even mention this, because somebody will jump up and say, "Hey, it's been done." You will very rarely see a power lifter pick up the one end of a car, pick it up, like something like that. Supposedly they can lift half the car, but they never actually pick up the car and lift it. Or you'll see some crazy Jamaican using bench pressing a car for reps. It's probably a piece of junk, but the point is that such being able to lift 600 pounds doesn't translate into actually being able to lift 600 pounds in the situation of lifting a car up or something like that, or carrying a telephone pole. Useful translations of strength into everyday life. So they just don't seem to translate well. And there's a number of reasons for that. But the main thing is, when you weight train, you train to pick up more weight. You don't train to do other things. Now, you can develop your body by weight training in tandem with other kinds of training. So your body learns that the reason it is developing this muscle or strengthening it is so it can be used for a certain task, like wrestlers lifting weights. I'm talking about amateur wrestlers lifting weights, and then in the same general vicinity or time of when they're also doing wrestling practice. So they have the opportunity to teach their muscles that the muscles are growing stronger to be used for a certain purpose and develop a certain practice. So that's the whole point of strengthening the muscle. The muscle is not simply being strengthened to get strengthened more by lifting a heavier weight. It's strengthened to be used in sparring or grappling in the practice room, and so on and so forth. And it's the same thing with many other sports and disciplines, be they football or what have you. The idea of it is that the participants participants understand what they're doing. Northview, and and school their muscles to become good at something else. So it has the dexterity to mix with the strength, so that the muscles get an education and also get stronger to perform different acts and tasks. So this is the advantage of having a reason to strength train. And most people don't have a reason to strength train. They simply don't have a reason. So what you get is a form of LARPing for the aforementioned reasons. And there's really, at the end of the day, no reason unless you're going to translate that strength into something practical, be it horseshoe bending or a baseball bat breaking, the wooden baseball bat. A lot of these feats of strength are not attempted by so-called powerlifters and strength athletes. You never see them actually attempting feats of strength. And this is very important to understand, because otherwise you believe that the weightlifting will translate into something practical. Whereas muscles are not a genuine deterrent, and in the near future, they will be even less of a deterrent to those who are not intimidated by such things. So, this is the basis for strength training. What, or for not strength training, as the case may be, you have no reason to strength train. You have no reason to lift weights. You have no reason to get healthy. It's a complete waste of time overall. People think it's such a valid pursuit as compared to what? There is no, what are you comparing it to? At the end of the day, you're going to be no farther ahead than those individuals that do not lift weights or do any kind of manual labor or exercise whatsoever. And the fact that you are contemplating that is no different than the individuals who practice body modification from many perspectives, in the sense that those individuals are deeply dissatisfied with the way they look and are very desirous of altering their appearance. And consequently, these individuals are willing to gain or lose an infinite number of pounds in order to achieve their perfect body image, so to speak. And they will go about it, uh, to basically show no thought or care for the outcome of or for anyone else, because they're perfectly contented with that. So, again, going back to the idea, strength training is a waste of time. You don't need to be strong. Your job doesn't depend on you being strong. Your livelihood doesn't depend on you being strong. Your family doesn't depend on you being strong. Being strong in the long run is only going to cause problems for you. So, if you understand this, you understand my point about the whole matter and why the fitness is actually a waste of time. So, it may be a guilty pleasure, it may be a act of rebellion, it may be just a possibility for weight loss, but anyway, the cookie crumbles, and it will crumble. Never doubt. The concept of strength training is indeed a waste of time, and we advise against it. And this is the whole point of this video, is to urge people not to dwell on these things, not to spend their money on these things, and not to worry about the outcome that they face, because all is going according to the plan. Trust the plan. And for them, it might be a negative uh, karmic situation, but nonetheless, that is inevitable, and nothing we can do will postpone that. So, in my future videos, I'm going to be talking about more exercises to do, and I'm also going to be going into the question of diet and why that's a waste of time as well, and also an impossibility. And I'll be talking more about the nature of exercising and why it is a waste of time and effort as well. So, without further ado, I'm going to close this broadcast. This has been another broadcast by Black Pill Fitness Productions.